I never thought a quiet neighborhood with freshly trimmed lawns and smiling neighbors would turn into the setting of every parent's worst nightmare. My daughter, 14 years old and disabled since birth, had just started to find her own kind of freedom, rolling down our street in her custom wheelchair, music in her ears and peace in her eyes. We moved here thinking it was the safest place for her to grow up. But all that changed the day Karen from the HOA decided she didn't like how we disrupted the look of the block. It started small, petty complaints, nasty notes, and whispering behind closed doors. But no one expected it to escalate like this asterisk. That afternoon, a single argument turned into something we couldn't take back. A noise, a scream, and my little girl on the ground. She didn't see it coming. None of us did, and Karen, she had no idea who I was, what I did for a living, or what crossing that line would really cost her. You see, she thought we were just another family she could push around. What she didn't know was that I'm a federal judge. And while I never imagined I'd have to use the law like this, that day, justice became personal. What happened next changed everything. We moved into this neighborhood 2 years ago. It was supposed to be our fresh start, quiet streets, a decent school district, and what we thought was a friendly community. My wife and I chose this place because of how easy it would be for our daughter to get around. She has limited mobility, and even small things like curb ramps and smooth sidewalks make a huge difference in her daily life. At first, it was calm. People waved, brought over cookies, and asked questions about her condition with what seemed like genuine care. Then came Karen. She ran the HOA like it was her personal kingdom. If your grass was half an inch too long, she noticed. If your trash bins were out too early, she made sure you got a warning letter. But when she saw my daughter enjoying herself outside, just listening to music or drawing on the driveway with chalk, something changed. It was like we broke her invisible rules we never agreed to. Karen's complaints started piling up. She claimed my daughter's wheelchair tracks were scuffing the pavement, said her presence made the neighborhood look different. We thought it was just ignorance, maybe a lack of compassion, but it kept getting worse. We didn't know she'd been watching us more closely than anyone realized, and planning something unthinkable. It wasn't just us. Over time, we started hearing quiet stories from a few other neighbors, how Karen had fined an elderly veteran for a flagpole, how she yelled at a single mom about her kids leaving bikes on the lawn. But most people kept quiet. No one wanted to be on Karen's radar. She had a way of making your life miserable through rules and technicalities buried deep in the HOA bylaws. For us, it got personal. One day, my daughter came inside crying because Karen had stood at the edge of our driveway and told her she was drawing attention in the wrong way, that she was making people uncomfortable. My daughter didn't even understand what that meant. She just knew someone was being cruel to her. I tried to address it calmly. I asked Karen to stop speaking to her directly and to come to me or my wife if she had concerns. She just smiled and said, "I'll do what's best for the neighborhood." After that, small things started happening. We'd wake up to our mailbox wide open. Security cameras we installed were suddenly offline. Anonymous notes showed up telling us we don't belong. Still, we had no proof, just suspicion and a sinking feeling in our gut. But then something happened that turned all those little red flags into one giant warning sign, and it involved a neighbor's security camera that caught something she never meant to be seen. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, my daughter was outside, drawing quietly with chalk on the driveway. It was her favorite way to relax. I was inside reviewing a case file when I heard a sharp knock at the door. It was our next-door neighbor, Jordan. He looked shaken, holding his phone out like it was something toxic. "You need to see this," he said. He had a motion-triggered security camera pointed toward the street. Earlier that day, it had recorded something chilling. Karen, pacing back and forth near our property, talking to someone on the phone. Her words were muffled, but clear enough to make out phrases like "sick of looking at that wheelchair," and "someone has to teach them a lesson." I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't just harassment anymore. It felt targeted, personal, hateful. We brought the footage to the HOA board, but Karen had already beaten us there. She spun some story about fabricated videos and claimed we were trying to intimidate her. Suddenly, our family was at the center of a neighborhood storm. People chose sides. Some avoided eye contact, others offered quiet support when no one was watching. Then came the day everything exploded. A noise rang out from the street, followed by screams. I rushed outside. My daughter on the ground, her wheelchair tipped over. Karen stood frozen nearby, a phone clutched in her hand, her face pale. But this time, someone else had caught everything. As I rushed to my daughter's side, time seemed to blur. Her face was twisted in pain, her hands trembling as she tried to sit up. I knelt beside her, checking her quickly. Thankfully, no broken bones. But the look in her eyes said enough. She was terrified. I turned toward Karen, ready to demand answers. But before I could speak, another neighbor, Mr. Ellison, stepped out from behind his hedges, holding his phone up. "She didn't know I was recording," he said quietly. "You need to see this." He handed me the phone. The video showed everything from a second angle. Karen walking straight toward our driveway, just minutes before my daughter's fall. She wasn't just nearby. She had wheeled the chair slightly while my daughter had gone inside to grab her sketchbook. A barely noticeable shift in position, but enough to throw the balance off if someone leaned the wrong way. That alone was shocking. But then, as the footage continued, another figure appeared, someone I hadn't expected to see. One of the other board members. She whispered something to Karen before walking off fast, glancing around like she didn't want to be seen. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just Karen. It was bigger. There were people protecting her. People who knew what she was doing, and maybe even helping her. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed at my daughter's bedside, her hand wrapped in mine, while my mind raced. The video proved everything, but more importantly, it exposed a deeper rot in the HOA. I forwarded the footage to the local authorities, then made a call I never thought I'd have to make, to a colleague at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I wasn't just a father anymore. I was a federal judge with clear evidence of premeditated harm and conspiracy. It was time to act. The police arrived quietly the next morning. Karen was escorted from her home in stunned silence as neighbors peered through blinds. The board member in the video, she was pulled in too. It turned out she had been shielding Karen for months, covering complaints, editing meeting notes, even threatening residents who questioned her authority. They had weaponized the HOA to control anyone who didn't fit their narrow idea of normal. But just when I thought it was over, the final twist came. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered years of hidden fines, manipulated budgets, and forged records. Karen hadn't just targeted us. She'd stolen thousands from the neighborhood fund under fake maintenance projects and legal fees. What started as an attack on my daughter revealed a much bigger scheme. Justice was served, but not just for my family, for the entire community. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Karen and her accomplice faced charges not just for what happened to my daughter, but for years of HOA fraud and harassment. The neighborhood board was disbanded, and a new one was formed, with real transparency, compassion, and people who actually cared about the community. My daughter healed slowly, but with strength I'll never forget. She's back outside now, shark in hand, her smile just as bright. Neighbors who once stayed quiet began to speak up. Some even apologized for not saying something sooner. The street feels lighter these days, not just because Karen is gone, but because people are no longer afraid to be seen or heard. My daughter healed slowly, but with strength I'll never forget. She's back outside now, shark in hand, her smile just as bright. Neighbors who once stayed quiet began to speak up. Some even apologized for not saying something sooner. The street feels lighter these days, not just because Karen is gone, but because people are no longer afraid to be seen or heard. If there's one thing this whole experience taught me, it's that silence allows people like her to thrive. But standing up, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. That's how real change happens. No one should be bullied in their own home, and no child should feel like they're a burden just for existing. We didn't choose this fight, but we saw it through. Because justice isn't just something I practice in court, it's something I owe to my family, and now to my neighborhood.